Farmers and ranchers are a major part of our Canadian economy. Every year, they have to risk poor weather conditions and also, of course, global market changes. Joining us from Lethbridge to chat about this and more is Ken Coles. He's the Executive Director of Farming Smarter. Good to have you with us again, Ken.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Hey, why don't we first of all just refresh our viewers as to what Farming Smarter is all about? How do you go about helping farmers?
Yeah, you bet. We're a not-for-profit charity that works in the innovation world in crop production here in Southern Alberta. So we've got 4 programs, a knowledge and network program where we reach out and form relationships with innovative farmers and agronomists, figure out what the issues and opportunities are. And we try to support that through science with small plot research. We scale up to the field scale. And we also have a commercial innovation program that helps businesses that support agriculture.
Oh, okay. Very diverse. All right. Well, had some pretty dry conditions in southern Alberta over the last few years, but this year, we did see some more moisture, right? So where are we at with watershed moisture levels in southern Alberta?
Well, honestly, we had what's considered a normal year, and that felt weird to
Oh, okay.
everybody. Yeah,
It does
so
sound weird.
it feels weird because we have such variation from year to year. So overall, the precipitation levels were good in most places. There were challenges in other parts of the provinces for sure with drought. We're pretty decent as far as the watershed and the irrigation side is concerned. So we were pretty touch and go as far as snowfall and irrigation. We were in restrictions again this year, but that wasn't a big deal considering the precipitation that we had. Overall, I believe the levels are decent, and as long as we continue to get snowfall in the mountains, the irrigation sector should be in pretty good shape. But all things considered, it was a good year.
Right. So as long as we have a decent, winter and get some runoff, we should be okay. That's great news. But by the way, you had mentioned that there's parts of Alberta that didn't get as much moisture. Here in southern Alberta, like south of Calgary, were there some spots that didn't get enough, or was it pretty much everybody got at least enough?
I think it was pretty good overall, but there were areas in southeastern Alberta where we actually
Uh,
had some farmers that got in a little bit too early. They seeded, and it's normally a good thing to seed early, but this year, by the time the moisture came, I think that crops were hurt in that area. So
okay.
that even towards Medicine Hat, I think there
Yeah.
were some challenges, but
Okay.
in general, southern Alberta had a good year.
And how did the harvest turn out then for our farmers?
We had a beautiful harvest season with, today's the first snow. We're into middle of November. So as far as ability to take crops off and no damage to the crops by rain or snow. So harvest was beautiful.
Yeah, I've heard that from a number of farmers that I know. They had good crops, so that's encouraging to hear. But what were the best performing crops this year in southern Alberta?
It depends. I think a lot of the crops did well, but I heard some phenomenal barley crops, for example. So I
Yes,
think
I heard that too. Okay.
probably the cooler season crops excelled, the ones that were able to take best advantage of. It's nice to talk about moisture, but timing of moisture is also a very critical component to growing crops. So, and it wasn't the hottest year, so I think the crops that need the heat probably didn't excel as much as they had in years past. But otherwise, yeah, most crops did well.
Did any crops do poorly this time around? Like, were there any standouts going, oh man, it really didn't do so well?
I've heard different stories from different farmers, but I don't know that I can generalize other than the ones that got seeded too early this year.
Right. Okay. Now, I understand that Farming Smarter is rolling out a new initiative called Agronomy Battles, which involves your scientists and agronomists going out to directly meet face to face with the producers. So, can you explain how this is going to work and what the benefits are?
Sure. So we call them agronomy battles because it's the wars that farmers are facing each year. And that depends on the regionality. So we wanted to go out to a few different spots. We're in Bow Island next week. We're also going to be in Tabor and Enchant, and we're picking different topics for each one of those areas. And the idea is to get sort of out in the community, to have the local farmers stop by and to engage in sort of a collaborative dialogue into what the biggest challenges are in each one of those areas. For example, glyphosate tolerant kochia, it's probably universally a challenge for everyone, but that's one of the topics. Like what are farmers doing? Where are they seeing wins? Where are they having the most challenges? And that way we can kind of learn from what farmers are doing, but also be able to pinpoint where we should be putting our efforts. And I think that's the most important, I think, win that comes out of it. People can share their successes, but we also have a very clear path to where more support is needed. And then we can put together research projects and try to find funding to support either solving those problems or enhancing the opportunities. Because it's equally that way too. Like there could be a new crop developing or a new practice that's showing promise in conserving soil or conserving nutrients or moisture. So that's the general gist of it.
And you getting some good response? Farmers saying, "Yeah, we're going to show up and meet with you."
Yeah, I think it's about having the right people there more than anything. So we're not actually trying to grow big crowds. We're trying to or bring
The right
people
crowds.
together that are
Okay.
interested in working with us in helping solve those problems. And if they have the time, we'd love to have them out and just to have sort of that really kind of think tank approach to solving some of those battles that are out there.
Well, it's a little bit like, with our family, we play boggle sometimes, right? And you look at
Hmm.
this little square of letters and you look at it and go, how on earth could I have possibly missed that?
Yeah,
And my daughter, well, she saw 3, 4 words that I had no clue were there, right? So you get these different brains together and you can come up with some good
yeah,
solutions, right, on both
collective
sides. So,
intelligence.
yeah,
You got her.
absolutely. I mean, it's a principle that works, I think. So, now farming, of course, becoming very high tech these days, and it's a business, right? So, is there a measurable difference, do you think, in success rates when you take a look at farmers who are staying up to date and getting these ideas, collaborating together, staying up with technology and new techniques, all that kind of stuff, as compared to, I mean, some folks are just old school, all right, and they stick with the old stuff, and we've always done it this way. So, do you notice any difference at all?
It's a really interesting question and a challenging topic all round. And I think nationally, there's a lot of institutions, organizations that have recognized the challenges with technology adoption, everything from not having enough connectivity and concerns why all of the investments into these things aren't being used or commercialized. And so we as an organization are quite attuned to that. But I don't think that there's any right answer. I think that I've seen farmers that take a low tech approach that are absolutely beautifully
Hmm.
successful because, you know, to try new tech, they don't always work and they don't always add value. And in my opinion, if it doesn't add value, it's not innovation.
Yep.
It's an invention. It's a crazy new idea. So the challenge for a lot of companies that are offering new tech and new approaches are often not connected with the realities of farms and the challenges
Mm-hmm.
and
Hmm.
bottlenecks that they face. So I think it's an area that we should continue to work on, but I think we also have to work on the right things. And so yes, there's an increase in technology, but it's often the simple ones that win, that will solve a simple
Okay.
problem. So yeah, it's an all round complex thing. It's not just technology. It's about workflow. It's
Hmm.
about
Yeah, I mean,
logistics.
you got to
Yeah,
figure it out for each individual producer as well, right? I
yeah,
mean, some things may work, but they may be super expensive. So again, do you get value from it when you do the math on
yeah.
that, right? So,
And there's a cost to
um,
implementing them, both in
yep,
time and
yeah,
labor. Yeah,
exactly. But yet over time, maybe it does pay off, right? So,
you bet.
all right. Well, tariffs, of course, always an issue for farmers. Of course, the tariffs on canola and on peas these days. Did we see producers plant different crops? I mean, I've heard that some, just backed off the canola because, maybe wait till those tariffs come down. Or did they find any different markets to export to?
Yeah, I definitely a big topic and an influence, and it's probably the one downside of having a good year with good crops, and it always seems this way. Whenever you have good crops, the crop prices are poor. It's probably coincidence more than anything, but there's no doubt the tariffs did influence what crops were being grown to a certain degree. A lot of farmers now will have a rotation, and they're usually pretty set with it, so they don't worry and flex because they don't know what's going to happen come fall when it's time to sell or market the crops. But for sure, peas and canola, I think were probably down a little bit. I know that lentils, for example, were probably replaced for peas, so a lot more lentil acres. But for the most part, it's really hard to judge, but it is a challenging thing that comes with farming.
It sure is, yeah. Any help coming for farmers from provincial or federal governments this year in light of these various
I
tariffs?
believe there is. I mean, we have our normal sort of agri-stability type programs
Yeah,
that are out
yeah.
there. I did see that there are some programs that are helping farmers with losses that may have been incurred by the tariffs. I don't know honestly the details. It's not really my
Yeah.
area, but
Okay.
I do see the governments and the insurance side of things is helping with some of those challenges.
All right. And any specialty crops that did really well this past year?
You know, it's hard to pinpoint anything in particular. Funny enough, I heard pumpkins were a challenge with
Pumpkins.
some disease. So it's a very small niche crop
Yeah, yeah.
that we don't often talk about. But I was talking to a board member that mentioned that there were some challenges along that front. I believe potatoes had a good year. Uh, Most of the other crops, I haven't heard of any major issues. So when you have a good growing season and good moisture, everything usually does well.
Right. Now, you also have a Farming Smarter conference and trade show coming up in Lethbridge. This will be February 11th. What's happening at this event?
Well, we've actually switched it to a 1 day event because we're
Oh,
also
okay.
hosting a trip to New Zealand and Australia. So I
Nice.
think that's an exciting thing that's going on. So we've now decided that the year we host a, a farmer slash agronomist trip to another part of the world, that we're going to do a 1 day conference, and then the year that we don't have the trip, we'll go back to a 2 day conference. So that day will be a lot of our staff reporting on the findings from our trials, everything from irrigation management, we're nutrient management, and so on. We'll have a few guest speakers, and kind of it's a bit of an update on the, I think, 169 trials that we're currently working on this year. Yeah.
That's a lot. Okay.
hmm
Well, with that many, you're bound to find something good there. So,
I think there's
okay.
a few things to talk about.
Well, thanks so much for updating us on this, Ken.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Ken Coles, the Executive Director of Farming Smarter. I'm Paul Arthur, and on behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, thanks for watching.